My parents didn't book me a room on our family Christmas trip, so I calmly left, exposed their fake wealth to Grandpa, and watched him cut off all their cash. I called my grandpa hours later. They were already begging me to come back, but it was too late. This happened last year, and I'm finally ready to tell this story. It's long, but trust me, the ending is absolutely worth it. My family thought they could treat me like garbage and get away with it. They were very, very wrong. This is probably the most satisfying revenge story you'll read today. I'm 34, male, live in Denver, and make around $175,000 annually. I know that sounds decent, but wait until you hear about the rest of my family and their ridiculous spending habits. This story involves years of family dysfunction, public humiliation, and the most epic comeback you can imagine. Let me paint you a detailed picture of my childhood and why this revenge was so incredibly satisfying. While my sister Ashley was winning beauty pageants and dating star athletes, I was the weird kid who actually cared about grades, saving money, and building a real future. My parents, Robert and Linda, made it crystal clear from the beginning who their golden child was and who was just taking up space. When Ashley turned 16, she got a brand new BMW with a giant red bow on top. I'm talking about a $40,000 car for a teenager who didn't even have a job. The whole neighborhood came out to watch her squeal and jump around like she'd won the lottery. She posted about it on every social media platform, calling it the best day ever and thanking her amazing parents. When I turned 18, I got a used Honda Civic with 180,000 miles that my dad bought from his coworker for $1,500 at Builds. Character, he said, while Ashley smirked in the background, probably already planning her next expensive request. College was even worse, and really set the stage for everything that happened later. I worked my rear end off at 2 part-time jobs while studying finance, stocking shelves at a grocery store from 6 p.m. to midnight, then weekend shifts at a local restaurant. I graduated summa cum laude with a 3.9 GPA and still ended up with $43,000 in student loans because I refused to ask my parents for help after seeing how they treated financial requests. Ashley, meanwhile, went to some expensive private liberal arts school where she studied communications, which basically meant learning how to look pretty and marry someone rich. She joined the most expensive sorority, went on spring break trips to Europe, and never worked a single day during her 4 years. Guess who paid her full tuition, room, board, and spending money? Spoiler alert, it definitely wasn't Ashley. My parents acted like funding her lifestyle was just a normal part of being good parents while treating my financial independence like some kind of character flaw. Right after graduation, Ashley hit what she considered the ultimate jackpot. She married this guy named Brad who works in commercial real estate development and supposedly makes serious money, north of $400,000 annually, according to Ashley, who never misses a chance to mention exact figures at family gatherings. Suddenly, she's living in a massive 8-bedroom house in the most exclusive suburb, driving a Tesla Model S and posting Instagram stories from Cabo, Dubai, and the Maldives every other month. Her social media became this carefully curated display of wealth that honestly made me embarrassed for her. Meanwhile, I'm grinding 70-hour weeks, eating ramen for dinner and slowly chipping away at my debt like a responsible adult. Don't get me wrong, I've done really well for myself through hard work and smart decisions. I've got about $160,000 saved up now. My loans are completely paid off. I max out my 401k and IRA every single year. I drive a reliable Toyota Camry that's fully paid off, and I live in a nice but modest 2-bedroom apartment. I'm dating an amazing woman, Sarah, who's a nurse practitioner making around $90,000. She's down to earth, saves money, invests wisely, and basically represents everything Ashley isn't. But apparently being financially responsible and living within your actual means makes you boring and unsuccessful in my family's eyes. Ashley never misses an opportunity to take passive-aggressive shots at my lifestyle. At family gatherings, she'll say things like, "Finn, when are you going to get a real job that pays enough to actually enjoy life instead of just surviving? Or maybe if you spent less time obsessing over spreadsheets and more time networking with successful people, you'd understand how the world actually works." She always delivers these comments with this fake concerned voice that makes me want to scream, like she's genuinely worried about my sad little existence while showing off her newest Louis Vuitton handbag that costs more than most people's monthly rent. The worst part was watching my parents nod along, like her criticism was completely valid and helpful. Here's the thing that makes this whole story even more satisfying, though. Our grandfather, William, built a construction empire from absolutely nothing, a true self-made success story. He started with a pickup truck, a toolbox, and a willingness to work 16-hour days in all weather conditions. Through decades of hard work, smart investments, and treating people fairly, he ended up owning one of the largest construction companies in Colorado. The man is worth somewhere between $8 and $10 million, and he's always been passionate about teaching family values like hard work, saving money, and earning what you get through merit rather than handouts. Somehow that lesson only stuck with me. The rest of my family treats Grandpa like their personal ATM. They all live completely inflated lifestyles funded entirely by his generosity, then have the nerve to look down on me for being unsuccessful and unmotivated. The irony is completely lost on them. Every year, Grandpa organizes an elaborate family Christmas trip to bring everyone together and maintain family bonds. He pays for absolutely everything because he believes family unity is worth any price. Last year's trip was supposed to be at a fancy ski resort in Vail that charges $1,200 per night for basic rooms, $200 dinners, $300 spa treatments, lift tickets that cost more than most people spend on groceries in a week. Grandpa had booked everything months in advance because he wanted this particular trip to be extra special for reasons I didn't understand at the time. I drove up from Denver after finishing a major project at work on Friday, finally arriving at the resort around 8 o'clock in the evening. The place was ridiculous in the most ostentatious way possible. Exposed wood beams that probably cost more than my car, natural stonework that looked like it belonged in a museum, massive fire decline with chimneys you could fit a small person inside. People were walking around in ski gear that easily cost $5,000 per outfit, casually discussing helicopter skiing and private mountain tours. I felt a little underdressed in my normal Columbia winter jacket and basic snow pants, but I figured nobody would care. I was there to spend time with family, not compete in a fashion show. Boy, was I wrong. I walked up to the front desk with my simple duffel bag, gave the clerk my name, and waited while she typed away with increasing confusion. She frowned, typed more aggressively, sighed in frustration, and finally called over her supervisor, who went through the same process with identical results. "I'm very sorry, sir, but I don't see any reservation under your name in our system. Let me try different spellings and check if it might be under a family member's name." That's when I heard Ashley's voice behind me, and I immediately knew something was wrong just from her tone, this weird theatrical quality I recognized from childhood whenever she was about to cause trouble. "Oh my goodness, Finn, you actually made it! I wasn't sure you'd be able to get time off from your little job," she said, sounding way too cheerful, like she was performing for an invisible audience. I turned around. There she was in a designer ski outfit that probably cost more than I spend on clothes in an entire year. Custom-fitted jacket, pants with metallic threading, boots straight out of a fashion magazine. She had that same smirk I remembered from when she used to get me in trouble as kids. The front desk staff kept searching while other guests started gathering behind me, clearly annoyed by the delay. Ashley stepped closer and said, "Just loud enough for everyone to hear. How very strange that there's no room reserved for you. I wonder how that could have happened." Then she leaned in and lowered her voice to what she probably thought was a whisper. "Actually, Finn, I had a long conversation with Grandpa about the sleeping arrangements for this trip. We both decided we only needed rooms for the real family members this year." She raised her voice again. "You know people who actually contribute something meaningful to family gatherings instead of just showing up expecting handouts?" My stomach dropped as the implications hit me. "What are you talking about, Ashley?" "Grandpa invited everyone personally. Well, we have the presidential family suite for me, Brad, and our twin boys. Mom and Dad have their lovely corner room with the mountain view." She paused dramatically, clearly enjoying every second. "I guess there just wasn't space for everyone who wanted to come. You understand how expensive these places are, right?" The lobby had gone completely quiet except for the crackling fireplace. I looked around and spotted my parents sitting in leather chairs near the fire. When I made eye contact, they both immediately turned away like cowards. Brad was scrolling through his phone pretending nothing was happening. Their 8-year-old twins were running around the lobby oblivious. Ashley continued her performance. "I mean, let's be realistic here. It's not like you could afford to stay at a place like this anyway on your little analyst salary. Maybe there's a Holiday Inn or Super 8 down the mountain somewhere." She actually started giggling, like the idea of me at a budget motel was the funniest thing she'd ever imagined. Other guests were openly staring. The front desk clerk looked mortified. The supervisor pretended to be busy while listening to every word. "Ashley, what the heck is going on? Grandpa specifically invited me and confirmed my attendance." "Oh, sweetie." Grandpa understood completely when I carefully explained the real situation to him. "We need to prioritize the people who actually matter to this family's future success." She gestured toward Brad. I mean, Brad's company just closed a $15 million commercial development deal last month. That's real success. That's the kind of achievement we should be celebrating and supporting as a family unit. Something clicked in my brain. This wasn't a mistake. Ashley had deliberately planned this entire scenario to humiliate me in front of strangers and prove her superiority. I stood there for maybe 20 seconds processing everything while Ashley watched my face with obvious satisfaction, clearly expecting me to beg or make a scene. My parents still wouldn't look at me. Brad kept scrolling. The other guests were getting uncomfortable. Then, instead of anger or hurt, I felt crystal clear clarity, like puzzle pieces suddenly fitting together. You know what, Ashley? You're absolutely right about everything. Her confident smile faltered. I'm sorry, what did you say? You're completely right. I should definitely leave this place immediately. I pulled out my phone and opened a rideshare app with deliberate calm. I hope you and the real family have an absolutely wonderful Christmas together. Now she looked genuinely confused. Wait, that's it? You're just giving up without even trying to fix this? Nope. I'm making a conscious choice based on new information. Have fun explaining to Grandpa tomorrow morning why I'm mysteriously not here for Christmas breakfast. Grandpa will understand completely when I tell him how inappropriate and dramatic you've been acting. I turned one final time and gave her the biggest, most genuine smile I'd had in months. I'm absolutely sure he will, Ashley. I'm completely confident he'll understand everything perfectly. The ride share down the mountain gave me plenty of time to think clearly for the first time in years and to plan. See, Ashley had made one crucial miscalculation that was about to destroy her entire fake life. She assumed I was still the powerless little brother she used to bully. She had no idea what position I actually held or what I knew about the family's real financial situation. Here's what Ashley didn't know and why her stunt was about to backfire spectacularly. First, for the past 6 years, I've been helping Grandpa with his business finances, not officially on paperwork, but whenever he had questions about investments, tax strategies, retirement planning, or financial analysis, he called me directly. I know more about his money, his concerns, and his future plans than anyone else in the family combined. Second, I'm the person who convinced him to modernize his record-keeping and move everything to secure digital systems. I personally set up his online banking, organized his investment accounts, and digitized decades of paper records. I have legitimate access to financial information that would make Ashley's head spin. Third, and most importantly, Grandpa has been getting increasingly worried about the family's spending, habits, and sense of entitlement. He's made pointed comments over the years about people who live beyond their means and expect handouts instead of earning their way. He was deeply concerned about what would happen to his money after he was gone and whether anyone in the family actually understood its value. I called Grandpa from the airport while waiting for my flight back to Denver. Finn, what's wrong? Aren't you supposed to be at the resort with everyone else? I told him exactly what happened. No drama, no manipulation, no exaggeration, just the plain facts. How Ashley deliberately excluded me from the reservations, her real family comments, the public humiliation in front of strangers, and my parents' cowardly refusal to defend me. The silence on the line lasted about 45 seconds. When Grandpa finally spoke, his voice was ice-cold and determined. I see. Well, I think it's time some people in this family learned about real consequences for their actions. Grandpa, you don't have to do anything drastic. I'm fine. I'll just spend Christmas at home. Finn, can you come to my office first thing Monday morning? I need to discuss some very important business matters with you. Bring your laptop and any financial analysis software you have. That's when I knew Ashley had just made the biggest mistake of her life. Monday morning, I sat in Grandpa's office. Dark wood paneling, leather chairs from the 1960s, awards and photos from 40 years in construction. He looked tired, but absolutely determined. Finn, I want to know exactly how much money I've given your parents and sister over the years. Every single penny, every gift, every loan, every emergency payment. Can you help me compile that into a comprehensive analysis? I spent the next week going through bank records, transfer logs, tax documents, canceled checks, and digital payment records. Grandpa gave me complete access to everything going back 20 years. What I discovered was mind-blowing and worse than I had suspected. Over the past decade alone, Ashley received $49,000 for her wedding. They actually spent over $78,000. $32,000 as a down payment gift for their house, plus another $28,000 2 years later for kitchen upgrades. For the past 5 years, she's been getting $3,800 every single month for children's expenses and cost of living adjustments. That's over $228,000 in direct monthly payments, plus another roughly $200,000 in emergency loans, failed investments, birthday and Christmas gifts, vacations, jewelry, furniture, etc. My parents, $91,000 to pay off their mortgage early, $3,000 per month for the past 6 years to supplement retirement, over $216,000, plus another $75,000 in miscellaneous handouts for renovations, medical bills, cars, insurance, etc. Total direct handouts to them in just the past 10 years, well over $650,000. And that doesn't include smaller gifts, meals, vacations, etc. Meanwhile, I'd asked Grandpa for help exactly once in my adult life, a $5,000 loan when I was between jobs after college. I paid it back with interest within 4 months and never asked again. Then I dug deeper into Ashley and Brad's actual finances using public records, court filings, and business databases I have access to through work. The results were shocking. Their house is mortgaged to the absolute limit. They owe $732,000 on a property now worth maybe $650,000. Both luxury cars are leased, not owned. Ashley's credit card debt across 12-plus accounts, over $90,000. Brad's successful business has been struggling for 2 years. 3 major projects fell through. Their biggest client terminated the contract. They've defaulted on 2 large construction loans, and the company is basically on life support. Without Grandpa's $3,800 a month, they'd be bankrupt in 60 days. Their entire Instagram life was built on debt and Grandpa's money. When I presented the full report to Grandpa, he sat quietly for 15 minutes, slowly flipping through the documents, his anger growing. Finally, he looked up and said, "Very interesting indeed. I think it's time for some people to learn what real consequences feel like." 3 weeks after the ski resort incident, Grandpa called a mandatory family meeting at his house. Attendance was non-negotiable for anyone who wanted to remain in his will. I arrived early to help prepare what would become the most satisfying presentation of my life. Grandpa had printed everything: bank statements, transfer records, loan documents, property records, business filings, credit reports, all neatly organized in folders with each person's name on the front. Ashley showed up 25 minutes late in her Tesla Model S, wearing another outrageously expensive outfit, clearly annoyed that her busy schedule of spending other people's money had been interrupted. Brad looked uncomfortable from the moment he walked in. My parents acted like nothing had happened at Christmas, no apology, just business as usual. Grandpa started very formally. I've asked everyone here today because I've been conducting a comprehensive review of my financial support to this family over the past 15 years. Finn helped me compile some very eye-opening information, and it's time we had a completely honest conversation about money, entitlement, and family values. He handed out the folders. I watched Ashley's face drain of color as she realized exactly what she was looking at. Grandpa continued in his calm, business-like tone, "I want each of you to review those numbers and then explain to me why you believe you're entitled to this level of ongoing financial support." Ashley immediately went into victim mode. Brad and my parents tried to deflect, but Grandpa shut them all down, pointing out every choice they had made, assuming his money would always be there to bail them out. Then he delivered the verdict. Effective immediately, all financial support to this family is permanently terminated. The explosion was immediate and glorious. Crocodile tears, frantic excuses, panic. Grandpa wasn't finished. I'm also deeply disappointed and personally offended by how Finn was treated during our Christmas trip. The deliberate exclusion and public humiliation were unacceptable and showed me exactly what kind of people you've become. Ashley's tears turned to rage. "This is about him? You're doing this because of him?" "Yes, Ashley. He should be able to take care of himself, and he does. He has never asked me for ongoing support. He paid off his loans through his own work. He lives within his means. He treats family with respect. You might consider learning from his example instead of mocking it." That's when Grandpa pulled out the final folder and had me present the detailed analysis of Brad's failing business and their mountain of debt. Ashley's perfect world crumbled in real time as every lie was exposed in front of the entire family. Grandpa concluded, "You all have some very serious decisions to make about your futures." They left in chaos, Ashley screaming about how unfair it was, Brad looking like he was going to be sick, my parents defeated. After they were gone, Grandpa smiled at me with genuine warmth. "Finn, I've been thinking about updating my will and estate planning. My attorney agrees it's time for some very significant changes to reflect my current understanding of family values and responsibility." 8 months have passed since that meeting, and the results have been spectacular beyond my wildest dreams. Brad's business filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy in April. They lost the house to foreclosure and now live in a small 2-bedroom rental in a much less desirable area. Both luxury cars were repossessed. Ashley got her first real job in over a decade, working retail for $13 an hour and hating every minute. Her social media went dark. She can't afford the lifestyle anymore. My parents sold their house, downsized to a 1-bedroom condo, and both took part-time minimum wage jobs. The twins switched to public school. And the best part? They all started calling me, desperately begging for help. My parents sent pages of handwritten apologies, obviously just damage control. Brad offered to pay interest on any loan the minute business picks up. Ashley herself called 6 weeks ago, crying, offering to apologize publicly on social media, begging me to help them get back to normal. I asked her one question. When you excluded me from that hotel and told everyone it was only for the real family, did you think for even 1 second about how that would make me feel as your brother? 30 seconds of silence. You humiliated me because you thought I was weak and needed you more than you needed me. You were wrong on every count, she begged. I let her beg. And do you know how that makes me feel? It makes me feel like maybe, just maybe, there is some real justice in the world after all. Sometimes, late at night when the apartment is quiet and Sarah is already asleep beside me, I still replay that lobby scene in Vale. I can feel the exact moment the air left my lungs, the way Ashley's smile cut deeper than any words could. For years, I told myself I was over it, that I had built a life strong enough to make their opinions irrelevant. But the truth is, part of me was still that 18-year-old kid waiting for someone to choose him. That day in the resort, nobody did. And instead of breaking me like they expected, it finally set me free. I never wanted revenge. Not really. What I wanted was recognition. I wanted my parents to see the double shifts, the skipped parties, the nights I studied until dawn while Ashley partied in Europe on their dime. I wanted them to notice that I paid back every single cent I ever borrowed, with interest and a thank you note, while they wrote 6-figure checks without blinking. I wanted Grandpa to know that someone in this family actually listened when he talked about hard work and integrity, and when he looked at me across his desk after reading my report and said, "You were the only one who heard me," something inside me that had been clenched since childhood finally relaxed. Watching them lose the cars, the house, the facade. It wasn't sweet the way people imagine. It was sad, in a distant, almost clinical way, like watching a building you once lived in get demolished. You know it had to come down, but you still remember the rooms. Ashley's voice on that final call, thin and shaking, asking about the boys and whether we could ever go back to normal. It hurt in a place I didn't expect. Not because I pity her, she made her choices, but because I finally understood we were never competing for money. We were competing for love, and she thought the only way to win was to make sure I lost. I don't hate them anymore. Hate takes energy, and I'm finally spending mine on things that matter. On Sarah's laughter when we cook terrible meals together, on the way Grandpa now calls just to ask my opinion on investments, on the quiet pride of knowing every dollar in my accounts is mine alone. The real victory wasn't their fall, it was realizing I never needed their approval to stand tall. I already had everything they were chasing, I just earned it the long, honest way. And for the first time in 34 years, I sleep without waiting for the next slight, the next comparison, the next reminder that I was the spare. I'm not the spare. I never was. I was the one who stayed, who built, who carried the values they only pretended to have, and that quiet knowledge is worth more than any inheritance, any apology, any tearful voicemail at 2 a.m. I won the moment I walked out of that lobby with my head high, long before any of them ever realized the game had ended.